everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Working for the Rich and Famous. Hope you're all well and you've had a good week. Thanks again for all your support. We're still getting really, really lovely feedback. The numbers of listeners each week is just growing and growing and growing. So word's obviously getting out. It's obviously doing good in the industry, which is great. Obviously the whole point of this podcast is just to sort of help bring us all together really and help sort of educate and inspire, and so we can all learn a little bit about what we all do really. So it seems to be doing what we're setting out for it to do, which is great. Really excited about this week. We're talking to another chef this week. It's only our second chef that we've ever had on. And Roger, the chef today, has had a very different career to Sam, the chef we've spoken to before. Roger's actually from my hometown, Doncaster. No offence, Donny, but it's not got a huge amount going for it. And what's great about Richard's story is Roger's story is he, you know, didn't have the strongest start really from an educational point of view, but it didn't seem to hold him back at all, because he's now living in America, working for some of the richest families in the world. So just goes to show that you can do anything you sort of put your mind to, you know, if you work hard enough. So loads I want to cover today. I think this will be a really inspiring one for lots of people listening. So welcome to the show, Roger. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you
very much.
Thank you very much. This is a Saturday, so thanks for coming on Saturday on your time off. It's evening for us here. It's lunchtime over with Roger, so I don't want to waste too much of his day, so we can obviously just get straight into it. So, Roger, what a career!
Yeah, it's been interesting. Yeah, so far.
Yeah, for sure, and obviously still a lot for you to do. So you're from Doncaster. Doncaster's up in South Yorkshire, where I'm from. So why don't you take us right back to sort of where it all began? Like, what was school like for you? What happened after school, and how did this chefing career even kick off for you?
Yeah, I went to school at the public school there, Hall Cross. Didn't do great in my GCSEs. I think the classroom setting isn't really for me. I'm more of a practical person. So I didn't do great in my GCSEs. I think out of 11, I maybe passed 3 or 4. So it didn't look great from the get-go for me out of Hall Cross. But I found my passion for cooking, luckily, pretty much straight after I did my GCSEs. I got a part-time job in a restaurant called Le Bistro, which was on East Lathgate at the time. Owned by the Mullally family, who now own Relish in Doncaster. And so I got a part-time job there on the weekends helping out, and just because my father knew the owner of it, and I really fell in love with cooking from that job. It escalated from a part-time weekend job into a full-time job where I was going after school and working, helping the chef there on evenings through the week. And kind of fell into, and so I looked at the options at the time, and in Doncaster it's kind of limited. I went to the open day course at Doncaster College and signed up for the hospitality and catering course there, running that alongside my job at Le Bistro. I started out on level 1 and was learning the basics, knife work and things like that. I was looking for a little bit more of a challenge because I'd already learned that on the job. So there was like this difference in speed from NVQ level 1, the basics of washing knives and sharpening knives. I'd already done that from working in a kitchen. So I wanted a bit more of a challenge. So I looked out at what options were available after that. I was advised against leaving Doncaster College until I'd gained my NVQ level 1, 2, and 3. I was told there by many of the lecturers that I wouldn't be able to succeed in this industry without having NVQs, which obviously is not the case. So I left there after NVQ level 1 and moved to Manchester and worked for Raymond Blanc at Le Petit Blanc under a head chef named Simon Stanley, who gave me a very good, solid grounding. And I learned classic French cuisine. I learned discipline, things like that. And he would help me eventually move on from Manchester, a much softer place, moving into London, which is the place in the UK. It's where everything happens. It's where all the Michelin restaurants are. So getting that grounding from Simon was fantastic. To go down to London and already know how Michelin kitchens worked and things like that. Uh, moved to London in '07. I went straight to Gordon Ramsay at Claridge's under Mark Sargent. Great kitchen, 40 chefs working 90 hours a week, 5 or 6 days a week. It's a very, very intense kitchen there at Claridge's. I went from Claridge's and moved with Jason Atherton at Mays. Stayed there a year. That was even harder. Very tough chef to work under, but took that and then ran with that and went to Tom Aikens, who, Tom Aikens in '07, '08 was, I think, was about 6 or 7 in the world on the top 50 list. And he was 26, 2 stars. I can't even tell you the level of intensity in that kitchen. It was incredible. The adrenaline of a dinner service at Tom Aikens, I've never seen anything like it before or since.
Wow.
But you learn quickly and you make mistakes, and you don't make those mistakes again. So learned the whole Michelin system, not many days off, you work a lot of hours, you put in the work. And then from there I went to a place called Bibendum, which is really a flagship restaurant in London. It is absolutely incredible. It's been there probably 30 years now. It's now under Claude Bossy, I think. But I was under Matthew Harris there, and learned a lot from him, not just about food but man management, which is very important for chefs, because when you learn in Michelin kitchens, you don't learn about things like that. Of course, you learn just the jobs that you're given, and often they're the same jobs day in, day out. You don't learn about business or man management. And I learned that under Matthew, developing menus with him, and learning all kinds of skills that I'd never been able to do anywhere else. And then I took a break there. I took a year's break, and I went to Houston, Texas, where I had a good friend who was a nanny for a very wealthy family. And I went there for about six or 7 months for a break. It was a long vacation. It was a holiday with the occasional dinner party funding my holiday. Worked for some very wealthy people in Houston, and basically recharged or turbocharged myself to come back to London. And then that's when we get into the private business from there. That's my restaurant career wrapped up right there.
Yeah, well, what a start there. What a start. And a few things down there. Firstly, it's so interesting is everyone tells you need the qualifications and you don't. I know it can sometimes help, but I think, especially nowadays, how expensive universities and things are now. If a 22-year-old, 21-year-old came to my office to work for me and they've been at uni and they're 60 grand in debt and they've got no experience, they're not actually as attractive to me as someone that's been working in a business environment for 3.5 years, who hasn't got debt and can move to London, that kind of stuff. So experience is definitely starting to trump, I think, qualifications in some fields. And then the whole sort of Michelin star, what fantastic grounding, what fantastic training. But like you say, I think that going straight from a hardcore Michelin restaurant to private must be quite difficult, because you're just taught to cook very well and you're very much in your role. You can't really go outside of your role. If you hadn't had that experience in your most recent restaurant with learning your man management, it might have been difficult to have done the transition from your Michelin kitchen. And also just a lot of hours, not much money, not much time off. It's an intense environment, but I think if you can survive it, you're good to go,
Yeah, I think it's good for a certain amount of time. It's good for certain things. It's really not good for personality development, because you're in a kitchen 90 hours a week, not being face to face with customers, and therefore I think that affects your interaction with people. I mean, you're literally behind closed doors in this space for such an amount of time, not having to be around people. I don't think it's great for that, but it's good for some things. Discipline and things like that.
And during your career in restaurants, did you know much about the private sector at this point? Until you went to Texas, did you know much about it?
I knew nothing about it. Probably didn't even know it existed, really. I mean, I knew people would have dinner parties and hire chefs, but never even occurred to me that families would have chefs, let alone one, but sometimes, have 3 or 4 chefs in their home. Yeah.
So it was your time in Texas that sort of probably opened your eyes to this world.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that was the main thing, but I guess that's where I realized that people had these large dinner parties and would hire a chef to come and cook for them for an evening. But no, that probably wasn't my awakening into the private sector. I'd say that's when I worked in London in my first job and found out about it.
Fair enough. So you came back to
Yeah.
London. You came back to London,
Yeah.
probably assuming you were going to go back into restaurants at this point.
So I came back to London probably assuming that I would have to find a job in a restaurant. And my friend at the time, he was working at One Hyde Park for a family, and he told me that they were looking for another chef. They already had 3 chefs. It was a family of 5, and they were looking for a 4th chef, which blew my mind. This is where I found out about this kind of thing. It was an operation, and I know people out there will think, that's crazy, a family of 5 having 4 chefs. But if you look at the workload that we had, it was completely necessary. It really was.
What kind of stuff were they demanding then? So what was involved in this workload? It wasn't just 3 meals a day.
Um, no, it was, so they'd have a tasting menu for dinner. Each family member would have their own tasting menu, which was seven courses.
Wow.
The lady of the house was vegan, and she never wanted the same dish twice. So we had somebody always researching vegan ideas and being creative, because she didn't just want, a little tomato flour or something like that. She wanted really dining Michelin starred vegan dishes, and of course never to have the same thing twice. You got to have somebody dedicated to that all the time. So we had somebody doing research ideas for that. We had somebody to cook for the bodyguards and the most important members of staff, which were personal assistants and people like that. We had staff food to do, which was for about 30 people a day, 30 people in the household, just working, maids, butlers, everything. We did lunch, we did breakfast and dinner. So yeah, it was, you can imagine how many dishes per day are being done in that kitchen. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And
At that level as well.
yeah, at the fine dining Michelin level, and things can change at the last minute. The lady might decide one day that she's not vegan 10 minutes before lunch service, and then we have to create a new 7-course menu in 10 minutes. So, there were many curveballs like that. You had to be always on your A game. And so, yeah, it was a big workload.
Wow, talk about like you say, going in your first private job. You're going into one of the most high-profile private residences in the world, really, as your first job. Sink or swim situation, really. How long were you there for?
I was there for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a long time, not to stay with that family, I guess. But yeah, it was hard work, and it got me in a position now to be able to go anywhere, and any other family's demands now are laughable compared to what we did there. So.
Well, exactly. I think there's something to be said about the very difficult jobs in the world, and there are things you can take away from it and stick at it. Get a good amount of time on your CV from it, and like you say, A, it opens doors, and B, it makes everything else seem easy.
Yeah.
Cool. So where did you go from here?
There I went to Memphis, Tennessee. I worked for a family in Memphis, and I was with them almost 4 years. So very nice family. Of course, I feel like, I think I've said this before, is that American people are they're much easier to please. They know what they want, and just give them what they want. Whereas in Europe and in London in particular, some of these ultra high net worth families don't know what they want. So it's hard to give them things like that. So it was nice for me to go to Memphis to a much more laid back, casual family who treated, staff like family. And yeah, I mean, it speaks for itself that I was there for 4 years with them. And that was breakfast. So breakfast at 6 a.m. They had 3 children. I would go until 2 p.m., come back and start dinner, and do dinner at 6 p.m. for a family of 5. So, and that was Monday to Friday, just eating family food in this one.
Lovely. What made you go over to America? Were you specifically looking for a move over there, or did the role just happen to come along and it happened to be in America?
And I've always wanted to live and work in America. It's been, since I was at Hall Cross School, America had been a destination for me that I'd always wanted to live and settle down. So yeah, America was always on my radar, and made it happen in 2015.
Yeah, great. And do you find families are quite willing to organise visas and things for you?
No, so I moved over on a marriage visa, but
Ah.
the family helped me get a work visa.
Mhm.
Um, but that was after I'd already moved there and got married. So no, I don't think it's easy at all to get a private chef job and move over based on a work visa. There's not many industries in this country that will allow work visas to bring you over. I think it's things like doctors and surgeons and specialist teachers, certainly not private sector chefs and things like that.
Yeah. So I can imagine most American families have American staff, therefore.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, fair. So,
yeah,
wow, great opportunity for you then. It's just, the opportunity was there, so perfect. Because it means that
yeah,
sort of go and sort of follow your dreams, which is
yeah.
nice. And how long have you been in America for now then?
So 5 years, just over 5 years. 2015, I came in April.
Lovely.
So
Lovely, lovely. So
yeah,
you've done 4 years with that family, and now are you with your second family?
yeah, I am. I'm with my second family. I came here at the end of August 2019. Um, and so yeah, and I hope to stay in this job for a long time. This is the best private chef job I've had. Is the one I have right now. Very
Love
lovely,
that. Why is
great
that?
people.
Yeah, why is that?
They're just really, really good, normal people. I think this is the first gentleman that I've worked for who's self-made, first generation. So he knows exactly how to treat his staff because he's been one of us. It's completely different when it's that way.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of families will tell you when, sometimes when they're in a good mood, you're part of the family. Well, this guy actually means it. We are part of the family, and I think things like, in the United States, health insurance, we as staff have the same health insurance as he gives his children.
Mm.
So that really says a lot. Very laid back, know what they want, and it's easy for me to give them what they want. And again,
Yeah.
I come in at 11 a.m. I do a lunch for the gentleman and his wife. Uh, I have some downtime between 2 and 3 p.m. And then I start getting ready for dinner, and I do again a family meal because he has children who are young. So we do a family style meal. And for the gentleman, I'll pull out the fine china and I'll do him more of a Michelin style level dish. And that's 5 days a week. So, and the produce and things like that I get to use here is just phenomenal as well. Uh, we use fish from Brown's Seafood Company in Massachusetts, and they overnight fish to me. It's very different to London because in London, obviously everything can be delivered to your doorstep. You can make a phone call in the evening and the fish will be on your doorstep in the morning. Here in America, it's not easy, and especially being in Indianapolis where I am, you're in the center of the country. So all the fish, you have to order it the day before and it gets flown over overnight. Um, and he's a big fish eater, and we use a lot of Wagyu beef and Kobe beef, which is amazing because I don't know if you know this or the listeners will know this, but there's only 27 restaurants in the United States that serve Kobe beef,
Wow.
and we're actually a household that get it. So that's incredible. So the produce is amazing. It's it keeps my passion alive for what I'm doing, being able to work with these kind of things.
How do you manage to get that then? Is that like something money can buy, or is it more contacts can get?
It's more contact. My office is in Asia, and he uses them. It is beef is extremely expensive. It's $350 for 8 ounces, and that's to buy it in at. So if it was sold in a steakhouse, you'd have to mark it up even more than that. So it could be $500 for one steak, and we give it to the whole family. So
Mm.
we buy the whole tenderloins. We buy 4 or 5 tenderloins and put them in the freezer for dinner parties, or just you know the kids will come home from school and they'll be like, "Oh, Chef Roger, is it Kobe beef tonight?" I'll be like, yeah, it is, you know, Friday night, it's Kobe beef night. It's, yeah, it's cool.
That is
It's cool
cool.
that they get, I know that I wasn't that age when I got
Mm.
to try it, that's for sure.
Yeah, cool.
So,
I can imagine a lot of people or chefs that work in Michelin kitchens and are considering a move to the private sector. I can imagine a lot of people probably think, but the problem with working as a private chef is because you're their chef all day, every day, they're not going to want nice food all day, every day. So you're probably going to be stuck cooking basic, boring, home cooked food every day. You're not going to be able to do your fancy stuff. But by the sounds of it, you are able as a private chef to go all out and, you know, revert back to Michelin days and put out good food fairly regularly, would you say?
yeah, I would say so. I would say out of the 5 days a week, 2 nights I might do like fine dining, you know, where there's, you know, 10 or 11 things on the plate. There's micro herbs and things like that. They don't like to eat like that every night, but also they can have a dinner party where they'll invite a couple over, or a business meeting or something like that. And, you know, he'll give me the nod, and, you know, it means, okay, we're going to go all out and we'll do the fine dining, the fine china, and, you know, the place settings beautifully and things like that. But yeah, I don't think anybody would like to eat like that every night. The fine dining, it's just the family food, I think, is much better.
Yeah, you'd get gout, wouldn't you, when your stomach start falling out? Um,
Yeah,
gross.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So, as a private chef, I can imagine you do more than just chefing. Like, who does service? Do you serve, or do they have service
Yeah, I serve. If we have a fine dinner party, we'll hire somebody to serve.
there?
But it's very casual on a weeknight. I will bring the food out. I do a salad, and then they'll clear the salad plate to the side, and I'll bring out the main course. So it is very casual. You know, I have the waiter stand and the large, you know, the large trays that you use in the restaurants, and I bring it out and serve it like that. I don't just kind of bring it out, you know, 5 or 6 plates in my hands like that. But
Yeah.
so I would say it's semi-formal, but yeah, we don't have service staff for the regular weeknights. No.
No, fair. And I assume the family cook themselves at the weekend, or probably eat out or something.
They eat out a lot, and also on a Friday, I will make some things that can be
Wow.
heated by the nanny or something like that. You know, I'll make a casserole or something that they can just put in the oven and serve. But they'll eat out, or they'll order in
Yeah,
on
fair.
the weekends.
Okay, so for people listening then, so they don't know the difference between how your role would change between working in the kitchen and working as a private chef. Obviously, you and I know the massive differences, and there's so much more involved to just cooking as a private chef. But do you want to run us through the extra things you do working as a private chef than what you would do working in the kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, as a private chef, you're interacting with your people all the time. Um, in the kitchen, when you work in a restaurant kitchen, I would say most of the time you're just in the kitchen. Um, you know, as a private chef, you're around the family a lot. You're serving, uh, and you know, interacting with the family. You're part of the family, and you're living basically in their house. In some cases, you live in. I don't, but
Mhm.
so I'm there as much as anybody else. So you know, you're having to fit in and be part of the family. So yeah, it's not just a case of being locked away in the kitchen and just being able to make food. You have to have so many more skills.
Mm.
Being able to serve, and interact with them as you're serving, and you know, when you put the plate down, talking to them about what they're eating and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot more involved than just cooking in the kitchen, for sure.
Yeah, you need to have the social skills that I can imagine aren't probably developed when you're in a kitchen, like you say, because there's no need.
100%. Yeah,
I can imagine.
social skills are very, very important.
Mm.
Yeah,
And I can imagine growing up in
yeah,
Michelin kitchens, they're very high pressured, probably quite aggressive environments. So I can see why I come across young chefs all the time. I speak to young chefs and they're
yeah,
their first role and they've got chips on their shoulder. Like they're just generally quite angry people because that's
mm,
kind of all they know. Um, difficult.
yeah. I
Um,
will. You definitely, you cannot have an attitude when you're working in a private residence. The most important thing I can tell anybody is it's not about you at all. Do work in Michelin kitchens and they come out with attitudes. And in the United States, a lot of chefs get culinary degrees, and as soon as they come out of culinary school, they think they're a culinary god, and that everybody should bow down to them because they've got these stars on their jackets and things like that. But not at all. You need to completely let that go if you're going to become a private chef, and just make it about the family that you're working for. That's the best way.
Yeah. You also need to do a lot of washing up, a lot of shopping.
Washing up, yeah,
Mm.
everything. I think and one of the things that I do and I say to my boss is, don't just look at me as a chef. For example, his son needed a ride to football practice and the nanny was busy. I said, I'll do it. You know, that things like that, just, because it's not in my contract, and they're big on contracts in America, where you do this set amount of things and that's it. But I will do anything that's needed of me by my boss to get things done. Just be a part of the team.
Well, I would probably say that's probably one of the main reasons you're having such a successful career in the private sector and you're staying with families for a long time, because that's exactly, I think, what people want in their home. They want people like, yes guys, that will just do what needs to be done. And so many people, not just chefs, but so many of the staff I know in private homes, like it comes to crunch time and when people leave or get fired, it's because, they keep making me do stuff that's not my contract. And I can just see how that all pans out. The staff member gets all shirty with it, and the family get annoyed with it, and no one's going to win. You just need to do what needs to be done and just be part of the team, and also it keeps life a bit more interesting for you. Like, it must be quite nice to have a role where you're not just stuck in the kitchen, like you're out and about as well.
It is. I took the son to football practice and I stayed and watched his practice for 3 hours. So yeah, you really do feel like you're part of the family. If they go out and eat out and they ask you to come with them or anything like that, just go the extra mile. Just do more than what you're asked to do. Is really one of the best ways to be successful as a private chef, I think.
And be happy and grateful for it as well. Don't make it obvious that you're going above and beyond all the time and feeling put out by it. Do it gracefully.
Yeah, gracefully, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what would you say some of your career highs have been for you then? So if you think of everything you've done today, what's some of the sort of standout points for you?
I think we had an event here a few months back. Obviously, can't say too much about it, but it was a very, very large event. And we had, A-list celebrity artists singing at it. And it was a dinner for 150 people that I pretty much took care of myself. I had 2 or 3 chefs who we hired locally to help me assemble things, but the menu was created by me. And it was just a magnificent event that I will never forget. And it was an honor and a pleasure to be a part of it. I think that's got to be my highest part of my career. Is just a few months ago, yeah.
150 people. That's like
150 people, yeah.
That's like more than a lot of restaurant covers an entire evening.
I know, and I did a little small appetizer that was plated, and then we did a buffet. It was a buffet with Kobe beef for 150 people, and desserts, and then we did these miniature Wagyu sliders afterwards during the entertainment. And it was just on a very big scale. It was a very grand event, and it was incredible, and everybody looked happy. And a lot of guests came to me and said, "This is the best meal I've ever had in my life," and that's the ultimate compliment.
Wow. So, and also, it's nice, isn't it, to be
it was unbelievable.
It's quite nice as well to be this far through your career, having done all you've done, and still be reaching like mega like highs like that. Like it just goes to show like how much more there's going to be there for you,
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever top this one, to be honest, but I feel like everywhere I've ever worked and everything that I've ever done was put and made it what it was. Just every single experience that I'd had, I put into that one night, and it's something that I'll never forget, that event.
You must have been bricking it.
Yeah, I was a little bit. I don't usually get nervous on dinner parties these days, but I was on edge on that one. It had to be spectacular, no room for error. But it all went really well, and I was very happy the next day when I woke up and realized it was
done. Yeah, fair.
Yeah, done. Yeah.
So, what's COVID been like for you over there? So has that affected you and your work?
I'm very lucky to say it hasn't affected me at all. I know it has a lot of other people in the business, and it's really sad what's going on, especially in the UK. The things that I'm reading, but it hasn't affected me at all. I remember back in, I think it was March when it was made a pandemic. Pretty much on that week, my boss sat me down and said, "Look, we need to make a plan. We need to get supplies and things like that." And we dedicated a room in the house for supplies. I went out to the supermarket and bought, canned food, cans of beans and cans of vegetables, loads of them. And we made a room that we put all of that in. We put all the supplies in and locked it and said COVID supplies only. If it comes really bad and there's nothing left at the grocery stores anymore, then we go into this room and use these things. Well, luckily that never happened, and still able to go to the grocery store. I will say that it was harder to plan menus because I went to the store and certain things were not available. So I just kind of winged it when I went to the grocery store. Just could do whatever I could find. But the only thing really that's different is the wearing the mask. Nothing else. Nothing really shut down here. Nothing really changed. I mean, we get checked at work. So yeah, I mean, I guess we're just lucky that it hasn't affected us.
Yeah, you know what? I think those working in hospitality in the private sector have been way less affected. Those working in hospitality, goodness me, hospitality events. Oh God, what a year! Just horrific. And restaurants are open now, but they're shut at 10. And we're now locking down again in certain areas. And I think we'll go back before we go forward. But it's just hardcore. But to be fair, a lot of people in the private sector have. Some have not been able to go into work because the family have wanted to isolate without them. Other people have had to isolate with the family, which has got its own challenges in itself, having to self-isolate with the family. And other people have just come and gone as you've done, but took safety precautions and tests and stuff. So touch wood, a lot of people I've spoken to in the private sector have been able to continue to work, which has been nice. And quite frankly, rich people can't go without staff for very long, so they find ways. They find ways to make it work. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's been interesting talking to different people all around the world doing this podcast during the pandemic, and as to how different people it's sort of been as a sort of affected and stuff. So well, that's good. That's good that you've been able to sort of carry on. Right then, so I suppose before we sort of move on and sort of look to wrap this up, because the time just flies, I say every week, but if a young chef was talking to you now, like, what would you advise a chef now? Like, say someone that was at catering college in Doncaster, and they came and said to you, and they said, you've done the restaurants, you've done the private, what should I do? What would you recommend I do? Like, what would your advice be to a young chef?
Personally, I would say go and work in a nice restaurant, whether that means you have to move away from home where it's comfortable. Go to London, go to the big cities like Manchester, search out a restaurant where, and go and do stages at different restaurants until you think that one of the chefs there could be a mentor, and get under a mentor who's been there and done it and learn from them. About working in London, Manchester, those places are melting pots, and you work with different people of different countries and cultures. And I think it's really good to meet those people and learn their culture and their food, because when you go to college and culinary school, you learn classic French food or British food. You don't learn Asian food, Italian food, sushi. You need to learn every cuisine, because the family don't just want to eat Italian food every night. They want to be able to have in their home any cuisine done on a better level than anywhere they can eat around town. So I think you need to get out there and find a restaurant where you can find somebody to mentor you and teach you that discipline that you won't learn in college or culinary school. You're going to get told off, you're going to make mistakes, and sitting down in a classroom for me is not the best way to learn. It's not for everybody. Some people might learn better that way, but my advice personally is learn on the job, get into a very good kitchen, and just keep your head down. I think a lot of people these days, they want all the glory quickly. And, with social media and things like that, you see a lot of young chefs who are way ahead of where they should be just from like social media. That's in that mind as well. I think just get your head down and go and work, put in the hours and the shifts, and learn the hard way, and then let it let it all come after.
Yeah, completely agree. I think earn your respect that you get later in your career. Don't just sort of expect it too early. You'll sort of not too far. Do you ever see yourself going back to restaurants?
No,
Mm-hmm.
never.
Why would
I
you?
think this is. I think. I mean, to be honest, now you're talking about money. That's what we're all here for, and that's what we're all working for. It's once you come to the private business, you'll probably never work in a restaurant again. And a lot of people always say, think you'll ever get your own restaurant? And it's just like, why would I? I work Monday to Friday. I don't have to manage people, and I wouldn't go back. No.
Well, it ticks all the boxes because you can cook what you want. You haven't got to manage anybody. You're not being managed by anybody. You've got unlimited budget. You've got your weekend off. You get all the glory because you're the absolute star of the show. So you have the ego boost that we all like every now and then. And it's incredibly lucrative. So tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I do miss is the camaraderie of the kitchen. That's it.
Yeah, all the
the banter and things like that. Obviously, you don't get that. But no.
More price.
So that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So moving on then, just sort of wrap things up. One thing I don't know if I asked this in advance actually. One thing I ask quite a lot of people is there anything has there ever been quite a bizarre thing you've seen at work? So some people talk about bizarre things they're asked to do, or bizarre things other staff members do, or just things you've seen that you wouldn't expect to see, or just odd client requests. Anything that sort of stands out like that other people might not believe actually happened?
I've got 2 or 3, but I'm going to try to give you the best ones.
Awesome.
The lady that I worked for in London, she was a big fan of sea bass, and we would get the sea bass overnighted from the companies, and she would eat it and say, this isn't fresh enough. And we'd say, madam, this has been overnighted. This is as fresh as it gets. So at one point we were hiring a courier to bring the sea bass into London on a motorbike, as quick as we could. She would eat it and say, this is still not fresh enough. And we were looking at each other like, how on earth, what is she talking about? I mean, this is impossible. And then when we traveled with her to, her origin country, we went to her residence there and realized they actually had a sea bass. They had their own man-made lake with sea bass in it, which they were catching it on a golf cart and bringing it to the house. And that was, as fresh as you can get. There's no travel involved other than bringing a golf cart up to the house. So we laughed about that one.
Wow. I was going to say on that, so was that lake put in for her especially, or did it happen to be there with sea bass and that's why she got into sea bass? Or did she put it there?
No, her residence was massive. It was the forests surrounding it. They put a man-made lake in there. They'd done it, and they had somebody managing all of that. All of the nature and things like that were all controlled. But it was a huge operation. And, when the produce even came in, they would have an outhouse where they would scan everything that came in for poison before it would be brought to the kitchen. So, I mean, unbelievable.
That is unbelievable.
Doesn't get any fresher than that.
That is unbelievable. Like you say, you can actually see now. She probably was talking sense in London, because compared to what she's used to, it wasn't as fresh as she's used to. Actually, it makes her seem less mad. Yeah.
The other one, this is a quick one, I'll tell you, is the same lady. They really liked Wagyu beef, and we would get that from Harrods across the street. And we're talking maybe £2,000 for a whole tenderloin of this Wagyu beef. And the son came in one day and asked if we could, we had the whole tenderloin in a vacuum sealed bag. He asked if we could open it and cut a little bit off and ground it up and make him a cheeseburger. So we did that. And she came in at that time and noticed what we were doing. Well, later on in the evening, she came and asked what her options were for dinner. And the butler, who translated for her, said, Madame would like to know what you're going to offer her for dinner. And I said, well, Madame, we have some sea bass, some beautiful Wagyu beef. And she started speaking in her language and was raising her voice, and I wasn't sure what was about to translate her, but he said, Madame will not eat the leftovers of her son. So leftovers meaning that we'd opened the bag for him, and now she told us, I won't eat his leftovers. So she made us throw out the whole tenderloin of Wagyu beef because we'd cut it open for him.
So basically, that was a £2,000 burger you made him?
Yeah. We used a little tiny piece for his burger, and the rest was no good because we'd opened it for him. So she didn't want his leftovers. So that was a rough night.
Honestly, this is why I love this industry, because you think you've seen it all and you just never have. You've never seen it all. There's always more stuff. It's super funny. It's super interesting. And just it keeps things fresh. Hey, love it.
Yeah.
Well, look, time to say is ploughing on. So just to finish up then, as I do with everybody, just a few quick fire questions, super quick answers, mainly sort of yes, no questions, yes, no answers. Just curious your view on certain things. So we touched on this earlier, so I know your answer. Do you prefer to work with British or European families or American families?
Definitely American families.
Easy. What do you miss most about living in the UK? What do you miss most about living in the UK?
Free healthcare.
Yeah, fair. Do you prefer live-in or live-out positions?
Definitely live out. I like to get away at the end of the night and do my own thing.
Yeah, I think it's healthy for the family and for you.
Yeah.
Any foods that you personally hate eating?
Yeah, I think this is going to shock people, but oysters. I don't like them.
There we are. Do you have to prepare them often?
Occasionally. We do oysters Rockefeller here sometimes. So I'll just taste the topping that I'm going to put on it and make sure that's good. And I know the oysters are because they get flown in overnight. So luckily I don't have to taste them.
Must be weird serving and be like, oh.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
But at least, to be fair, it's a food that you haven't got to taste while cooking. It's not like having to taste, to be part of.
And I'll take 2 or 3 of them and give them to the house manager and the staff here and make sure they're good before they go out to the gentleman.
Yeah, fair. What's your favourite restaurant you've ever eaten in?
You might know it. It's the China Rose in Doncaster in Bawtry.
I love the China Rose.
It's been, oh my God, I've been going there since I was about 3 years old. Every time I visit the UK for a couple of weeks, I'll go there 4 or 5 times in that 2 weeks. We know the owners, been going there my whole life. We used to go every Christmas Eve. We go to every large family gathering is at the China Rose. Absolutely love it.
Love it. To be fair, I didn't even know if it was still there. I've not been in ages.
Yeah, it's still there, yeah.
Hey, I wonder, Harry, what about this then? So say you had to move back to the UK, the China Rose was about to go under, and then needed you to take it on if it was going to survive. Would you consider that restaurant if you're going to do a restaurant?
If I could keep it alive, I think I would, yeah.
Just stick a chef in there to do it for you. Do you prefer working for families with kids or without kids?
It doesn't matter to me, but I work with kids. And I've cooked for them. 2 of my roles here in the States have been where they've had 2 or 3 kids, and I love cooking with kids and teaching them about food. So it's a perk of the job, really, is that you get to be able to do that. Yesterday Friday was pizza night, and I had the kids who are 5 and 7 years old making pizzas with me. So yeah, I prefer it, actually.
That's so lovely. And again, probably why you do so well in the private sector, because some chefs would hate that, and you just win points if you get on with the kids. Like, it's just sort of like ticks the box. So if you naturally like children anyway, that makes that part of the job so much easier. Okay, cool. A couple of other things. Are you a chef that doesn't really cook at home because you don't want to cook, or do you like cooking at home as well as at work?
I don't cook at home at all.
No.
I eat out. Or I eat at work. And my kitchen at home's much smaller. My kitchen at work is like a miniature restaurant kitchen. They have the family kitchen and then a chef's kitchen, and it's the best designed kitchen I've ever worked in. So to come from there and come home, no, absolutely not. I'd make the food there and bring it and eat it at home.
Fair. A final question then. What's the top reason you do what you do? If someone said to you, give me one reason, why do you do what you do? What do you love about it? What would you say?
I think just with cooking, I mean, it really is an art form. People say that it really is. You get a blank canvas and everything that you put on the plate is your personality. And you don't get that freedom in many jobs, but you do in this one. And I think it's so cool that you're able to take all these different things and put it on the plate and have somebody eat it, and instant gratification. They say, oh wow, this is amazing. It's not like working in an office. It's I like, and I would even say I like the curveballs of the job. I like being kept on my toes, and dinner's not now for 4, it's for 10.
Mm,
It keeps me on my toes, and it keeps me excited, and no day is the same.
mm.
So I think that's pretty much sums it up for me, is the creativity and being able to express yourself and get paid for it is just a win-win, really.
Fabulous. Well, look, that brings things to a sort of natural end, really. I'm sort of conscious to let you get on with your Saturday, but thank you so much. That was so interesting and so different to the chef that we've had on before. And
Yeah.
people are going to find it super inspiring, especially those people that are potentially interested or are already over in America. We've got a huge following of listeners who are in America. Where we go from here is this will go out in a couple of weeks, and I'll put it
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. I'll tag you. If people are interested in reaching out to you, they can do it that way. So we do make you available to people that have listened should they want to talk to you for any reason. So really hope that was interesting for everybody. Thank you so much for coming on. As always, to all our listeners, if you like what you're listening to, please come and rate and leave a review on Apple. If you want to be a guest, please drop me an email at philippa@silverswanrecruitment.com. We have lots of people wanting to come on, which is great. If you've got a good story or just fancy a chat, then you're more than welcome. And then finally, if we can help you with your job search or help you find staff, please visit our agency at silverswanrecruitment.com. That's it for now. That's a wrap. I'll see you all next week.